Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and welcome to episode 1 of our all-new mock building series, where we're going to be building an Imperial base and doing weekly updates over the next few months. So very excited to get started on this and explain not only Microbuild, but kind of why we chose to do this mock and what it's going to be all about. So let's get into it. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about the details we have on this Microbuild. Now, obviously it looks very much like an Endor mock. We have some big trees and then this catwalk over to the AT-AT, which obviously from the movies, or if you've played Battlefront 2, it's definitely giving those vibes, but I don't want to label it as an Endor mock. And the reason being is that oftentimes when people do say like a Hoth mock or an Endor mock or one of these big ideas from the movies, I think it takes away a lot of creative liberty when you're building and you're just recreating a scene, whereas here we can kind of create our own story, and that's what we're going to do. So basically the story being told here is that the rebels, after Return of the Jedi and the second Death Star exploding, they are trying to eradicate the Imperial forces that are still spread across the galaxy. So this is reminiscent of that, and just so that's kind of how this is going to fit into the lore of Star Wars. So there's a few things I want to capture and make sure translate from this micro build to the finished product. Number one being the trees. We're going to definitely be doing a bit of a different building technique for the trees, as these ones I just want to be a little bit more taller and more prominent, much like the Endor trees you see in the movies and such. As opposed to our last build, which had lots of smaller kind of stubby trees that resembled bonsai trees more so. So that's something I want to translate, and also is having this water. I think the story is that the base is running on some sort of hydropower, so they've got water running out here, and they've got a little bit of a swamp area in the back. So that's another thing I really want to be in there. And then as far as the base goes, I really want to use some different techniques in this build, and maybe the platform here be studs and on top, just to kind of add some different building techniques in, as well as the base to have really good lighting. Our last build, the base kind of lost some points, at least in my books, when it came to the design and just the way it ended up looking. So I definitely want to put a lot of time and effort into the base. So one thing I want to do is to have this hangar bay here. It's going to be full of speeders and the troopers, and we're going to have it lit up really well. Now, when we come to the back here, I don't have it open in this micro build, but it's all going to be open, and it's going to be your typical Imperial base vibe in there as well. So wrapping up with the micro build, I just want to talk about how exciting it is to finally get my ideas laid out on something. You know, you think about what you're going to do for the next build. I mean, I've been thinking about this for months and loading up on sets and minifigures, and then to finally kind of solidify a baseline plan for this upcoming build is just, it feels really good, and I'm really happy with the way this micro build's turned out. Okay, so I just want to talk about the space we're going to be using and the sets and, of course, the army. So we'll start here with the Imperial side. We've got a few pilots and officers and a bunch of stormtroopers and a couple scouts. Now, I'm still deciding whether we're going to use the cantina ones. Maybe we have some part of it with sand that kind of makes sense for them to be in it, but if not, that's whatever. But they are super cool minifigures, obviously, and very expensive, so... now moving on to the rebel side, we've got a miscellaneous bunch, as the rebels typically are. I've got Luke, a Leia there. I'm not sure if we're going to use them. Wait, I probably will. I've got different Lukes and Leias in the collection, so we'll decide which one we're going to end up using. But obviously we've got Chewie and some pilots, and then a bunch of different troopers. And then, I have this one here as well. He came with a Y-Wing, but he is part of the army. So that is the two armies. Now, of course, we're going to be including some of these bigger sets. I want this to be on a landing pad. I want this AT-ST to be out in the battlefield. And, of course, the AT-AT is going to be loading up on the dock. As far as this Marauder thing, we might end up using it, might not. Same with the TIE Fighter. And then these ships, I might end up using them. I would like to find some stands, maybe, that could hold them up. I can't hang stuff from the ceiling here. I don't want to be putting holes in the ceiling, so if we can use them, we'll use them, and obviously they can add a lot to the mock and the build. So this is the same space we used for the last mock, and we ended up doing double the size of those right there. So it was 12 large base plates in size, and I think for this one we're going to shrink it down a little bit, just for a few different reasons. First of all, we don't have nearly the amount of troopers in the armies to justify having it that big. And another thing is that if we shrink it down a bit, we can obviously add a lot more detail into each one. I found with the last mock, we were just really stretching our parts collection pretty thin, and that kind of takes away from the finished product. So that's kind of how I want to keep the quality up, is just by shrinking this down a little bit. Okay, lastly, I just want to touch on the fact that we are switching gears a little bit and moving away from the Clone Wars, but it's just for this build. I mean, I don't want you guys to think we're done with the Clone Wars. Just for proof, I just want to show you guys our 8 new battle packs I picked up. We're definitely still loading up on Clone Troopers, and I want to do our next build will for sure be a big Clone Wars mock of some sort. We're still kind of thinking about that, but yeah, I just want to quickly assure you guys that if you're subscribed for the Clone Wars content, it is on the way in the future. So that's that. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap up episode 1 for us. I know there's a lot of talking today, but I feel like the better you plan and think about every decision, the better the end product will turn out. So it's obviously a big time investment and money investment to do one of these builds. So I just want to lay out all my thoughts, and obviously next week's Friday episode we will be getting started on some of the foundations and building. So anyways, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.